Hey, who put all this writing on my cage?
The first thing you should do when you get a pet is take home a book first and read it. Yes, I know you get lots of information on the internet, and we appreciate the fact that that's where you are today, but a book is an important way to introduce yourself to all the information you need about an animal. So taking home a cockatiel book when you're thinking about a cockatiel is really a very good idea. After that, you need to know about your basic supplies, which include food, and you see the food in the cup is actually very colorful, but none of that is dye. We do not feed foods that have dye in them. I don't know why people put dye in foods other than to attract the owners, because birds do just fine with natural seeds. The colorful things in this mix are dried red pepper, dried carrots, dried parsley, lots of vegetables, because your bird can eat anything you can. And as you see, it looks wonderfully delicious. In addition to food, you're going to need a little bit of gravel to put on the floor, because birds do eat gravel and it stays in their gizzard, which is sort of an industrial stomach for grinding seeds. Cuttlebone, which you will use because birds need a source of calcium. Vitamins go in the water every other day, not as much as it says on the package, please, because the birds won't drink it then. So I just put a few drops in every other day, so the water is yellow on odd days. My cage choice for a cockatiel is one that opens with a nice big door. And so this design is great because I can get my bird in and out easily. A cockatiel has bigger wings than many of the other birds. And when they spread them and grit their teeth, of course they don't have teeth, they are very hard to get in and out of a small door. So the first thing I look at when I'm getting a cage for a cockatiel is a door that I can get the bird in and out of. I also look to see whether the perches are the appropriate diameter. Cockatiel's feet are big, and ideally you want your foot to go 2/3 of the way around the perch. So while it came with this narrow perch in the back, I've added a thicker perch also. And I'll probably go ahead and put in something that has a little bit of texture and variation to it, whether it's one of these manufactured, I put that in quotes, perches that you hang on the side, or whether I just go out and get a tree branch and wedge it in the cage. Both of those are perfectly fine. And a branch that has bark on will give the bird something to do. It will chew the bark. And if it's a branch that has leaves on it, little leaves, birds love chewing on the little leaves. So a natural branch is just fine. We've got our cage all set up. We've got our water cup here. We're going to put our food cup in over here, and please notice that these cups go in and out from the outside of the cage, so you don't have to trespass. And now we're going to see about our bird, who has been sitting patiently in this box since we brought him home from the store. And sitting in the box is safe. He didn't need to come out before this. Would you like to come out and visit with people now? Hmm? Another one. There you go. This is a normal cockatiel. This is what you would see in the wild in Australia. And this one is a hand-fed baby, and so you see it's not really much afraid of me. It thinks that it is quite safe coming and sitting on my shoulder. It always likes to go to the highest spot, and so that's why it will go to my shoulder right away if it can. We're going to take a picture of your little footies so that there, that's good. You hold that foot up so people can see that you have 2 toes that go forward and 2 toes that go backward, and that's called a zygodactyl foot. I'm also holding him by the neck and the base of the tail because that's the safe way to hold a bird. His little chest doesn't have a diaphragm inside so that he can't breathe if I hold his chest, but when I'm holding him like this, he's perfectly safe and not 100% happy, but he certainly is not going to get into trouble. Sitting on shoulders is his favorite thing in the whole world. Now I'm saying he, but at this age I can't tell you whether this little bird is a boy or a girl because they both look the same when they're babies. The way I'll be able to tell is if this one starts singing and starts going doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle, because that's a boy. The little girls basically just go chirp like you heard this one do. But until I hear a difference in the voice, I can't really tell you whether it's a boy or a girl. You may notice that they all are attracted to things that are shiny. They love jewelry. And so you will notice that they go for necklaces, earrings, I worry a lot about facial ornamentation because it's not unheard of for a little cockatiel whose beak is actually quite strong to pull things apart. In fact, I had one pair of glasses I had to have the screws put in permanently because the birds that I had at the time would take the little screws out of my glasses and my glasses would fall off. Their little tongues are quite good at manipulating things. Better than a little screwdriver sometimes. People think that the bird is biting, but in fact all it's doing is nibbling to see whether this is something to eat or whether it's something that will say ouch. And because I don't say ouch, it learns that biting doesn't get it a response, which is what it really, really wants. Anything is a response, whether it's positive or negative, that's what the bird wants. And that's why I don't say no to a bird. I don't say ouch. I simply move it into a different location if it's doing something I don't want. If it's reaching down and chewing on my hand too much, I'll often touch its tail because it can't really see directly behind it. It has good vision, and its head and the eyes being on either side enable it to see almost 360 degrees, but not completely. So by touching its tail, it distracts it from what it's doing, and it will then go on to get into mischief with some other item, like my hair. When they're playing with your hair, they're really trying to fix your feathers. They don't understand why you have defective feathers. But as you see, they're quite good at finding anything shiny. We're going to open the door nice and wide to our cage, and we're going to put our bird in, and he will go to the perch eventually, but initially he's just going to sit on his water cup and chirp for us. Because he's a hand-fed baby, he's going to be much less afraid of people than a bird that has been raised by its parents. In addition to the arrangement that we have in the cage, which includes a little piece of spray millet, which is what will be the first thing that this little bird will eat, we have lots of toys that we're going to add, but we're not going to put those toys in the first week. We want it to get used to the cage and the environment. This is a bird kebab, and I have no idea why birds like cockatiels enjoy it, but they do. This little toy has things to chew on and little plastic pieces that a cockatiel will really enjoy. Birds see color very well, by the way, and so when you give them a bell that has all sorts of colorful things on it, that makes it even better. And almost every cockatiel loves bells. This is something I brought along to tell you please don't use. Mirrors, in my opinion, are not something I want in the cage with my pet bird. Mirrors make the bird think there's another bird there, and they will always go to the mirror. So if you do want to have a bird with a mirror, you're probably not going to have it as interested in you. And because this little cockatiel can live, maybe even as much as 35 years, I really want it to be bonded to me. I don't want it thinking that the bird in the mirror is its friend. I want it to be my friend. As always with pets, we suggest 1 for a pet, 2 for breeding. You're part of the bird's flock, and you are the one that the bird will focus on. Just like in the wild, birds flock together. When you have a pet bird, it flocks with you. Cockatiels are wonderful pets. They're very good companions. They can learn to talk just like you do. And if you happen to have a parakeet in the household, you often can cage parakeets and cockatiels together. They get along very well. Interestingly enough, the little parakeet is usually the dominant one in the cage. You'd want to put a separate cup of parakeet food in, but many cockatiels actually just as soon eat parakeet food as a cockatiel mix anyway, so not a problem. They always have things to chew on, and think about the fact that in the wild they would be nesting in a hole in a tree, and they would have excavated that hole in the tree. So our little bird is having a taste of what the perches taste like. As opposed to a bird that has not been hand-fed, this little guy is perfectly happy to move around the cage, even though he's just been put in the cage for the first time, because he's a bird that has been used to people all his life. Sweetie, I didn't put any water in your cup yet, but we'll put some in just a minute so that you can have a drink. You don't drink very much. You know you're from the desert areas in Australia, so it's not a problem if you go without water for a few hours. So you'll make out okay. Enjoy your cockatiel. They're great pets.